What's going on, Dolph fans? It is your boy Dillon, and I know I've been kind of MIA for a couple days. I've been really busy, getting a lot of things going, a lot of stuff in my personal life. But I've been doing a lot of work. I've been slaving away. Trying to get all of this data and information together for my free agent position by position breakdowns for free agency and draft. And it's been a ton of work. It's been a lot of fun though. I've really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to these upcoming videos, which I would venture to guess. I know I've been saying this kind of for a minute, but over the next few days, I'll probably start, you might actually get my first one, because I think I'm finally starting to get towards at least the end of compiling all the data I need for free agency, and so I can at least start making those videos. And then obviously the draft ones will be later anyway, which, there's still a ton more work, but we need the combine to happen anyway, because I need information from that as well. So, and pro days and stuff like that. So those are naturally going to happen later anyway, but we should start to rattle off some of these free agency videos here soon. And then of course, middle of the month of March, is the open of the new league year. But there are a few things I want to talk about today, including the fact though that today actually starts the first day of the window in which teams are able to tag players. So that is one of the things that I did want to mention in this video is that now that the window is open, so franchise tags, transition tags, those things can now be applied to players for this upcoming season and so on and so forth. So there will be information on that. There's been talk maybe about Gesicki or Agba potentially getting tagged. So it'll be interesting to see if the Dolphins do anything like that. And if they do, who is it that they do it to, right? Who do they tag? So there is that, but there are a few other things as well that I want to talk about. Going to update some of the Flores drama with the lawsuit, because there's some new stuff directed at the Dolphins. We're going to talk about the Dolphins signed a quarterback. I got a little bit of combine information, because there's been some pretty dramatic storylines surrounding the combine already, right? And it hasn't even happened. And then some cap discussion along with some potential cap casualties as well. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So first and foremost, we will talk about the quarterback that the Dolphins signed. So as you can see here, there's a couple tweets that I have up on the Bleacher Report stream. Former Cardinals backup quarterback Chris Streveler has signed with the Miami Dolphins. Also Barry Jackson, Chris Streveler, who figures to compete for the number 2 job. He has played in 7 career games over 2 seasons, with Arizona completing 17 of 25, 68% for 141 yards, 1 touchdown on Ravens practice squad part of last year. So, and the Dolphins obviously already signed a couple players. I know free agency hasn't started yet, but I'm eager to get these free agency videos out before they make a lot of moves and stuff, just in case some of these players, although to be fair, none of the players that they've signed so far are, anybody that I have on my lists for any of these positions, but just in case, I want to make sure I get the stuff out before they actually start. But as long as I get it out before free agency, because nothing can actually happen until then, it's not a big deal. But anyway, so the backup quarterback, because we do expect Tua Tagovailoa to be the starting quarterback going into this season, and so the backup position is open. And when it comes to free agents on the Dolphins roster, I did already make a that first look free agency video. Jacoby Brissett is one of them, and he can definitely kick rocks, bro. GTFO, you know what I'm saying? Get the fuck out of here, because you suck. And I mean, no offense to him as a person, but as a football player, bro, I don't want to see him here again. So, I did watch Chris Streveler actually a little bit when he did play, whenever it was. I don't even remember who it was that they played, but I did watch it, and He was okay. It was a very, very, very limited sample size. So, we'll see how it plays out, but he couldn't be any worse than fucking Brisket. So, jabroni Brisket. So, it is what it is. Dolphins signed Chris Streveler, obviously at least going into training camp. And, you never know. They may even bring somebody else in too, right? So, for a little competition in training camp. And that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. And obviously you do need to secure that number 2 job as well. And you need to make sure you have a quarterback that you can rely on. And it's a completely different philosophical base now with Mike McDaniel as opposed to Brian Flores. So anyway, having said that, that actually is somewhat of a decent segue into the Brian Flores mix, right? So there's a couple articles I want to go through, but this first one, Brian Flores says race played a role in the Dolphins firing. Miami denies allegations, of course. Now, that's the thing is when people were saying that, oh, the race stuff doesn't apply to the Dolphins. No, it does. He's saying that he refused to be a good old boy, right? He refused to be the compliant black man and agree to the tanking, right? That's his claims. And he's saying that because of that, they didn't like him anymore, and they made it was them that made the relationship difficult. It had nothing to do with him, and then he got fired because he was black, which is it's just absurd. He got hired by this organization, was their head coach for 3 years. He definitely got fired for other reasons that had absolutely nothing to do with that, including the fact that he is a dick. But then the guy that they brought in after him is a motherfucking minority as well. Not to mention the dude who did his firing is also black, being Chris Greer, right? So he really just doesn't have any fucking leg to stand on, bro. Because what are you going to say? Oh, Chris Greer fired me because I'm black? I guess. If you want to make that argument, right? Anyway, so let's continue on because I don't want to spend too much time. He did an interview on I Am Athlete. It's some it's some podcast with Omar Kelly and whatever, but I didn't watch it, to be clear and to be honest, but I saw little parts about it or little clips, and then I didn't watch the whole thing. I saw little clips, and I've seen a bunch of stuff on Twitter about it. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's much of any real substance to it, but I've been saying it, bro. He's relying on the reason why he decided to go class action lawsuit is because he's relying on other people to make his claims for him, because he doesn't have any fundamental basis to stand on here. He's got no leg to stand on here, especially then when you add in the way that he's treated players of color with his time here with the Dolphins, right? So the race stuff. Now, the tanking stuff, you certainly got to prove that he offered to pay you all that money, but I 100% believe that philosophically and in his actions, he agreed to put out a product that wasn't capable of winning games in 2019. He acquiesced to the tanking philosophy and executed that in his building of the team, as well as the, lack of preparation for game days, the misuse of personnel on game days, etc., right? Bad play calling, misuse of timeouts and challenges, although to be fair, he turned out to be pretty bad at that the whole way. Although this year, I didn't think he was as bad in year 2. This year, again, though, I think he had another sabotage motive. The first year, it was sabotage because we're trying to get a top pick. This year, it was sabotage because he was trying to sabotage Tua. So, but anyway, I digress. Point is, he sucks. He was not a good coach, and he's also not a very good person, and he doesn't really have any hardcore evidence, and he's doing a class act. This is my evaluation because I haven't seen any legit, concrete, for sure, 100%, this is going to hold up in a court of law kind of evidence. He's just relying on other people to make his claims for him, and he's the worst person to be the front of this, to be the face of this. By the way, though, I know it's a little conspiratorial, but it was just a thought that I had in my head. I actually wouldn't put it past the powers that be in the NFL to have convinced Brian Flores, or be, backroom kind of conversations with Brian Flores, be like, hey, You should do this lawsuit for race so that way we can squash you because you really don't have a leg to stand on. And then that way we can kind of silence the whole fucking narrative that we have an issue, right? Because you just turn out, the problem is no matter what, even if that's not the case, which again, that's a little conspiratorial. I'm just kind of having fun and it's just thoughts spitballing around in my head. But even if that's not the case, regardless, he could actually end up being a detriment to the cause if he ends up turning out to just be a fucking fraud and he doesn't actually get anybody with any legit evidence or experience of racist behavior in the NFL. And, you know, again, you still got to prove the tanking allegations. That's going to be hard to do unless you actually have like bank records, but then you would have had to have accepted it, which he says he didn't. So anyway, again, I digress. Let's go through these articles before I go off too much. You guys already know how I feel. Flores expressed in his brief, because there are some updates, though, to this whole thing, expressed his belief Monday that his race played a role in the Miami Dolphins firing him as head coach at the end of the 2021 NFL season. Appearing on the I Am Athlete podcast with Omar Kelly, the Sun Sentinel, and former NFL wide receivers Brandon Marshall and Chad Johnson, Flores gave his thoughts on getting fired despite leading Miami to back-to-back winning seasons. And that's such a superficial way to look at it again. I just hate that fucking narrative, bro. It's so stupid because it doesn't anywhere encapsulate the entirety of his time here and all the things that happened behind the scenes, etc., etc. And that's the ironic part about it is if you dig into that, he treated players of color like shit. A lot of them. So, I mean, get the fuck out of here with that noise, right? Regarding his surprising termination, Flores said, I think race played a role in my firing. What I mean by that is there were things I was asked to do. There were conversations that were had. I was made out to be a difficult person to work with because you are. You're a fucking dickhead. And there's clear and obvious evidence throughout your entire time here as a Miami Dolphins head coach. Like, I mean, GTFO, bro. Crocodile tears. Fuck off with them. Like, I don't give a shit, right? I think my white counterparts wouldn't have been asked to do the things I was asked to do. Yeah, and you can definitely GTFO with that because Adam Gase, who I don't know if you know this, Brian Flores, is white, was fired in large part because he wouldn't take the 2019 season. Dickbag. Now, obviously, you know, in a court of law, you would have to go through and find the evidence to that, prove that, maybe even fucking call up Adam Gase, right, as a witness, and so on and so forth, and hear his testimony and so on and so forth. But, like, come on, bro. We all know it. We all fucking know it. Adam Gase was fired in large part because he refused to take the 2019 season. So you think your white counterparts wouldn't have been asked to do the things he was asked to do? GTF the fuck out. And not to mention, regardless whoever became, and this is part of the reason why I 100% fucking believe he did buy in and execute the tank, is there's not a chance in hell. Not a chance in hell. Snowball's chance in motherfucking hell that when Brian Flores sat down and talked to them, Stephen Ross and Chris Greer and Garfunkel, they had a motherfucking conversation with about it and said, listen, bro, we're trying to get the number 1 pick in 2020. We need to lose games. And it was contingent on him being hired to begin with. Partly because the dude they just had and fired didn't want to do it. So even if the coach was white, 100% Stephen Ross and Chris Greer and them would have been like, bro, you need to tank this season. It would have been contingent on him being hired. Anyway, I'm just saying, on Saturday, the Pittsburgh Steelers announced they hired Flores to serve as the senior defensive assistant and linebackers coach under head coach Mike Tomlin, which a quick interesting point there that I didn't even think about the last time when I mentioned it. Now he's got to be with Minkah Fitzpatrick again, who was a player of color that he didn't get along with and ended up trading. So that's fascinating. Earlier this month, Flores filed a lawsuit against the NFL, the Dolphins, and the Denver Broncos and the New York Giants. Flores said that he was discriminated against by the Dolphins and during the Broncos and Giants head coach hiring processes. One of the allegations made by Flores was the Dolphins owner Stephen Ross offered to pay him $100K per loss in 19. Flores also said Ross tried to pressure him into a meeting with prominent quarterback in 2020 that it would have violated NFL tampering rules. Flores said he was treated with disdain and held out as someone who was was non-compliant and difficult to work with after refusing to do so. After spending 11 years on the New England Patriots coaching staff, Flores was hired by the Dolphins in 2019. Little was expected in Miami in Flores' first season, but he clearly got the players. No, again, complete bullshit. He had nothing, zero to do with getting the players to rally behind him and led them to a 5-11 record. Again, framing I absolutely fucking hate because it's not true in the slightest. They only won 5 games because of Ryan Fitzpatrick's gunslinger mentality, his ability to fucking rally the troops on the field, and because you got a bunch of known buddies, no-name guys that are playing for their careers, their contracts, their families, etc., etc. So they're literally putting everything they have, and they were a scrappy bunch of dogs that scraped together 5 wins. Okay, so like get the fuck out of here, bro. He has nothing to do with that. That's why when people were like in 2019, oh, he should be coach of the year, I'm like, no the fuck he shouldn't. He shouldn't even be close to the conversation because he was actively trying to lose games week in and week out. It was clear and obvious, but you know, in so many different ways. If you can just piece together the play calling, the misuse in personnel, the mysteriously having your better players end up on the fucking inactives list, crazy shit like that, right? Like, bro, you piece it all together and it's pretty fucking clear. Anyway, that proved to be a solid building block for 2020 as the Dolphins went 10-6. That normally would have been enough for a playoff berth, but a loss to the Bills in the final week of the regular season knocked them out. It appears, though, as a huge fall. Anyway, whatever. I don't even care about all that. You know, because I don't even want to get into the next season. Anyway, fell short of playoffs again, finished 9-8, seemed impossible, blah, blah, blah. Again, though, he was responsible. See, I didn't want to get into this. He was responsible for the 1-7 because he intentionally held the defense back. I don't care. The conversation about Boyer is irrelevant. He's the head coach. He's supposed to be a defensive genius. That's his baby. Buck stops there, bro. Boyer and anyone on that coaching staff is irrelevant when that's the case when with the dude at head coach. Buck stops right fucking there. So, Dolphins have denied Flores' allegations and referred to the statement they made upon firing Flores in January. At the time, Ross said he felt the key dynamics of our football organization weren't functioning at a level he wants them to be. I agree with that, although he is part of the problem. Anyway, Flores' firing left Tomlin as the only black head coach in the NFL. Since then, the Houston Texans elevated Lovie Smith to head coach, and the Dolphins hired Mike McDaniel, who is biracial. Alright, I'm sorry to take up so much of this video with this Flores bullshit, but let's go ahead and add to it a little bit more. Brian Flores says he declined to sign Dolphins NDA, turned down millions of dollars. Wow. You're so fucking cool, dude. But that's the thing, bro. Look, here's the thing. If it's a moral issue for you, you don't wait 3 fucking years to address it. I don't care if you're worried about losing your job. That's what makes it courageous. Right? That's what makes it courageous. If you do it when you have something to lose, not after you've already been fired and 3 years down the motherfucking road. Now you just look like a fucking dickhead. Anyway, former Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores said during an interview with Bryant Gumbel for HBO's Real Sports that the AFC East team offered him a non-disparagement agreement for millions of dollars after he was fired. Signing that separation agreement would have really silenced me, Flores said when explaining why he declined it. So now he's saying that they tried to get him to fucking sign this when they fired him to not talk about apparently the things that he's talking about now. Flores filed a class, but again, bro, like you gotta come with receipts. You gotta find the fucking, like, you can't just make the claim and say, hey, this person did this, bro. You actually gotta, this isn't fucking like, you know, a sibling rivalry at home between a couple kids, you know, tattletelling on their brother or sister to their parents, bro. Like, you can't just be like, oh, Billy did this, Billy did that, he's being mean to me. No, bro, you gotta come with facts and evidence and data, son. Like, that's how that shit works. And they ain't come with shit yet. So, gotta fucking prove it, bro. Anyway. Woo! Goodness, goodness, goodness. All right, so real quick, let's fucking just fly through this. Flores filed a class action lawsuit against the NFL and its teams alleging racist hiring practices and discrimination. Included in the lawsuit were allegations that Dolphins owner Stephen Ross offered him $100K per loss in an effort to improve the team's draft position. Flores also said Ross pressured him into recruiting a prominent quarterback. We know Ross denied the allegations. False, malicious, defamatory. Also recently released a statement calling the NDA allegations categorically false, which it's not pulling up there. I wish I could. And this is just the fucking text from fucking Bill Belichick, which prove absolutely nothing. Dolphins started 0-7, 1-7 during the 2019 season. Appeared on the oh no, that's during 2019. Said they turned things around. They didn't turn things around. Anyway, whatever. I did want to show you guys the what it said, but it's, let's see. I can't seem to, whatever. Basically, you know, this is good enough. They basically just put out a statement that says, you know, it's categorically false. We are confused and surprised that he continues to make allegations that he knows are not true and so on and so forth. So it's, I mean, again, this is not something that's going to go away right now or probably for a little while. Unfortunately, this is just drama that the Dolphins are going to have to deal with just because they're going to have to deal with it. And that's just the way that the Dolphins operate. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on now. Let's transition to some of the non-drama stuff, the non-like blood-boiling kind of stuff, and talk about a little bit of interesting news from the NFL scouting combine perspective. 2022 NFL combine bubble restrictions removed after pushback from prospects and agents, right? Which is fascinating. The NFL Scouting Combine will remove some COVID-19 restrictions amid pushback from draft prospects and agents. Per ESPN's Adam Schefter, a memo was sent out revealing those changes. Combine has been unbubbled for players in attendance per a memo sent out. And let's take a quick look at that real quick. So, as has been the case throughout the pandemic, we continue to evolve our combine policies and procedures in consultation with medical experts. Okay. While masks continue to be required for air travel and during medical exams at the combine, players and medical personnel wearing a mask at other times while on site is recommended but not required. We encourage all players to remain within the secure combine areas at all times for your safety. However, if you would like to leave the secure areas during free time in your schedule, you are now permitted to do so at your own risk. Except it's not just at their own risk, because then if they get it and they come back and they spread it around, etc. But, you know, whatever. Although, I mean, I'm not going to get into it, but we suck at handling this shit. We've given up on trying to handle it, especially in this country. And it's just going to continue to fucking be a sustained and regular, just massive killer. It's just, anyway, whatever. It's more disaster, but that's not the point of this. So, however, if you would, if you prefer to remain in the secure areas and have your approved medical support personnel, physical therapist, massage therapist, or approved athletic trainer enter the secure area to provide medical treatments, please follow the previously communicated procedure and complete the form in Teamworks if you have not already. Please let us know if you have any questions, blah, blah, blah. There you go. That is their statement. So, and because, let's see, the bubble restrictions include prospects being allowed just one medical support person who must be fully vaccinated. The memo also states that players will be restricted to secure combine venues during their entire time in Indy, and that players who violate these policies will be disqualified and sent home. There's the entire memo. Let's see, I am not going to read through it, but what I will do is I will just pop it up here, even though it's probably going to be difficult to see, just so that way it's at least in the video. And so if you got a magnifying glass or a microscope, this actually might be a little easier to see here. There you go. There's that. Anyway, moving on. Backlash ensued with agents representing more than 150 players threatening a boycott of sorts if the restrictions weren't eased, per Ian Rappaport of the NFL. And this is part of why it's interesting, because players and agents were like, yo, fuck you, we're going to boycott, which obviously they don't want, and why they made these changes. Agents representing more than 150 draft prospects are organizing a boycott of all testing, on-field workouts, and interviews at the next month's NFL Combine if heavy bubble restrictions aren't changed, sources tell me. Man, humans are just ridiculous, bro. I get people want to live normal lives, but I mean, it's crazy, bro. Like, anyway, so just scroll through so you can see a couple more of these tweets and stuff if you want to look at them and see what, Mike McCartney and Tom Pelissero had to say. Anyway, but that was an interesting development and everything and how that went and over the past couple days. And so it shouldn't affect anything though, obviously, because they did make the changes and everything. So I would expect everything to go on as normal, which is good for me though too, if I'm being, honest and selfish, keeping it real, just because of the fact that, like I said at the very beginning of this video, I do need like combine and pro day results to be able to gather the information that I need to be able to do my evaluations on some of these prospects that I have going into the draft, right? So, and for my draft videos, my position by position breakdown for the draft and the different prospects. So anyway, final thing that I want to talk about though is 2022 Miami Dolphins salary cap space and potential cap casualties. So a little bit of dip into this, as a little bit of additional content, because again, I'm not quite ready to start doing my videos, but I am super close, super close. So let me go ahead and give you guys this. So the 2022 NFL salary cap may not be set yet, but the Miami Dolphins are expected to be sitting pretty whenever it does get set. According to early estimates, Miami is on top of the league when it comes to available salary cap space by almost $10 million, according to overthecap.com's estimate. According to the NFL Players Association public salary cap report, the Dolphins have $2.2 million in remaining cap space from this year. They could roll that into next year's available cap space. And if the estimated $208.2 million cap comes to be a reality, Miami has about $62.8 million in total cap space. That's obviously after all of the current contracts are factored in. Over the cap includes an effective cap space rating, which calculates the estimated space a team will have when they have 51 players under contract. According to NFL rules, only 51 players count against the salary cap during the off season, even though the team could have up to 90 players on the roster. Their estimate, that's obviously for training camp purposes and stuff, right? So that way you don't completely like fuck your cap for a few months, although you would be cutting all those players anyway. But then there's like dead money and stuff like that. So anyway, there's some nuance there, but you get it. Their estimate for the Dolphins is $56 million in effective space, but $6 million, about $6 million move more, that's supposed to say more, than any other team. Despite having the most space in the league, the Dolphins can create more space very easily. Salary cap cuts are a part of the league every year, and Miami has several players who could find themselves as casualties this year. Safety Eric Rowe is a $5.1 million cap number, but only $525 would be dead money. I don't hate keeping him around though, especially because the depth there is not super far, so like you start to create holes when you don't necessarily need it, and when you have plenty of cap space, he's not necessarily a top guy that I would get rid of, but I wouldn't hate it either. Anyway, money owed to a player not on the roster if he were to be cut. The Dolphins would add an additional 4.6 in space, releasing him. With the emergence of Javon Holland and Brandon Jones in the secondary, Rowe could be a player Miami looks to release for space relief. I would get rid of some other guys first though. For example, like I would get rid of McCourty and Fedulum or whatever. Like I would keep Eric Rowe out of some of those other guys. Offensive lineman Jesse Davis has a $4.6 million cap number. Definitely get the fuck out of here, especially because I would spend a good portion of that. Now we'll get to this when I get to my videos, but I would get a premier right tackle and then spend buku dollars on a premier right tackle, and then I would also get at least one of either a left tackle and or a center. So I'd get at least one of those in addition to your premier right tackle, if not both. I would even be cool with them getting a premier right tackle and then also finding, a relatively inexpensive left tackle and a center in free agency. That way you can really open yourself up in the draft to get one of maybe those top linebackers, running back, and wide receiver in the first few rounds. Like if they play their cards right, they could address their offensive line in free agency, especially because one of the primary things we need is veteran leadership. and then get your running back, your linebacker, and wide receiver in the top 3 rounds. And depending on how the board falls, you obviously take the best talent at those positions, whichever the best talent is, whichever position has the best talent, right? So that is currently still on the board. But would create $3.6 million in cap if released. He would account for $1 million in dead money. Defensive tackle Adam Butler is a $4.2 million cap number with no guaranteed money remaining. His entire $4.2 million would be saved. He's a good rotational piece. And I don't know, the Ogba thing is going to be huge. And we'll also have to see if they're going to do Christian Wilkins' 5th-year option or give him a contract. That's something that's in the mix to keep an eye on. So it kind of depends on some of these other moves. I'm kind of indifferent or like on the fence with Adam Butler. Allen Hurns, they can get rid of him, wide receiver, especially because they will need to revamp that room. $3 million if he would release, generate 2.6 with 433 in dead money. Michael Dieter is at $2.8 million with all if available to come off the books should he be released. Now, if they do what I just said in free agency and get 2 tackles and a center, maybe that's the case. Although Michael Dieter still is a draft pick of yours, and it would be, he is one of the like only 3 offensive linemen even on this team that maybe is salvageable. So I'm not so sure he'd be a top guy for me either, but he hasn't impressed me by any stretch of the imagination either. And I've thought that so far to this point, that pick has been kind of a bust. So I wouldn't hate it either. Clayton Fejedelem, like I said, get rid of him. I don't care about that. Sathan Carter, for sure, absolutely. Van Ginkel, especially, I'm not so sold on that. I think Van Ginkel's a solid player. I'm not like one of those Dolphins fans that thinks he's a superstar. I think he's a very much a role player, a rotational player, and really good, in specific situations. But especially considering the fact that, we need so much help in the linebacker room. Maybe not one of my top guys. Although it is true that we have a ton of guys with like Jerome Baker and even a Landon Roberts and some of these other guys. Although Andrew Van Ginkel is one of the better pass rushing linebackers that we have. So again, probably not the first, but you do save $2.6 million or save $2.5 million with $78,000 in dead money. Zach Sealer, but he's also been one of your better. I wouldn't get rid of Zach Sealer. I think he's been definitely one of your more underrated defensive linemen and certainly one of the better rotational pieces. I would keep him. Myles Gaskin, he is, again, another draft pick, although with Duke Johnson and Phillip Lindsay being my foundational pieces for that, the building blocks for that room, and then the fact that I would get Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, or Isaiah Spiller, depending on how the board falls, etc., and what round we take the running back. You can afford to get rid of him. Adam Shaheen, it kind of depends on what you do with Mike Gesicki and Durham Smythe as well, right? And so, we'll see. Greg Little, definitely you can get rid of him. And then Calvin Munson, yeah, absolutely. So, like, half of these I agree with and you can for sure get rid of. And then, there's arguments to keep some of these other guys as well. But a good first look at some of these guys. Obviously, too, like I said, I did a video not too long ago doing a first look at the Dolphins free agents. And obviously, as we go through the position by position breakthrough, I will start each of those videos with who the Dolphins currently have on the roster, especially because some positions may need to get updates with some of these signings that the Dolphins have done recently and will do over the coming weeks. So, before I may get to, doing that positions video. So I will start off with who we have currently on the roster, and then I'll go through, the free agents for the free agent video and the draft prospects for the draft videos. And we will see, who we should keep, who we should get rid of, who I like, what I think is the most effective, efficient, the smartest, the best prioritizing. Because that's what I'm about, right? Like, I'm about efficiency. I'm about proper prioritizing, et cetera, et cetera. So I like building a well-rounded team as opposed to focusing on just one player. Part of, Mike McDaniel's philosophy that I really like. So anyway, We will get to all of that in due time, but that is going to go ahead and wrap this video up for me. So with that, let me get out of here. But before I do, make sure you check out the Rave On Sports app, the new fan-driven sports app for all of your sports, whether it be basketball, baseball, football, college, whatever you like. They got it, and they're looking to enhance your game day experience with live play-by-play coverage, live chats with other fans and content creators like myself, while also providing you with an arena to dispute all of the terrible officiating. So make sure you check for the links to that in the description box. And with that, I'm going to get out of here. Hope you guys appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comments section. And of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at DillonTartaro, as well as on Instagram at Dolphins_with_Dillon. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.
Miami wins it.